For those that haven't seen it, if you don't want, if you kind of want a really, really short summary about these concepts in about 7 minutes or 8 minutes or less, I did just record a video about this and we put it up on YouTube about 2 days ago, maybe yesterday, the day before. And we'll make sure that you guys get the link to that. The reason why I say that is because I think the concepts today are important. Just scroll down on YouTube in the description, and those actual graphics are in the description. They're clickable links. And what it will do is it will open up the graphics right in your Canva. I don't think it asks you for your email, anything. It just opens up right in your Canva as a template, and you can steal everything that we're talking about today, okay? And then tell everybody that you invented all of these concepts, okay? I'm all good with that. So know that the video is there, the graphics are there, and then the last thing is that the notes that I have for today's webinar, Chrissy is going to take these and she's going to make them available to all of you guys. And so you will, when she edits this, she will send out an email with a copy of a link to the replay and then also a copy of all of my notes. So if you're taking notes, awesome. If you don't, you're going to get them anyways, okay? But if you are taking notes, I'm going to beg you to start with these notes, and I am actually going to ask you to write these down because I think it matters. I think if you take any note today, this is the note I would appreciate for yourself and for your soul that you actually write down. And that is this. Remember to start with grace and lead with compassion. Remember to start with grace and lead with compassion. I'm going to say it one more time. And it looks like Chrissy, the awesome Chrissy, which looks like David Breckheimer right now, she just put that in the comments. Remember to start with grace and lead with compassion. Why is that so important to me? Gosh, I'm such a sap. I'm literally ready to cry. I suck at this. Okay, so I can cry at a good commercial, but why is that so freaking important to me? I think you're all very busy. And I think you're all really freaking hard on yourselves. Laura's shaking her head. Not me. Never me. Never. Okay, here's the fact is that when we talk about systems, the amount of people that I've had that I've ended up on calls with, the statement kind of starts like this. You have a lot of work to do with my systems. I have a lot of work on my systems. I've really got to revamp my system. I mean, I could hear 500 different phrases, but the phrase is always my systems. And I don't know about you and your heart and your soul, but to me, systems is a big concept. And that's freaking overwhelming. Why do I want to start from a place where I'm starting from a place of overwhelm? That doesn't even make sense to me. I mean that for myself. I mean that for the people on my team that I lead. I mean that for the customers that I'm working with. I mean that for my wife. I mean that for my kids. I mean that in every area. This is not negotiable to me. So yeah, I am starting this talk out about systems, and we're talking, you can apply, but when you apply, please go back to your first note. Grant yourself some grace and lead with compassion. So let's start with my favorite concept that I always talk about with every system, because I get really heated on this and I'll try not to get mad and passionate about it and stuff like that. But I'm so sick of hearing this crap. It drives me nuts. So what is that? And that is this. And I'll put my glasses on so I read it exactly. I say it all the time, but I'll read it right off of here so it matches what you guys have on your notes. The number one statement that I hear and I have heard for years, and I originally started really dealing with systems and I got in this business in 1997 as a loan officer. And the amount of times that I've heard over those years, it's all about systems. I want to scream, I want to puke, and I want to punch someone in the neck. I am so sick of hearing that statement. It's all about systems. No, it's not. Now, I'll try to calm down. Okay, but it's not all about systems. Okay. How many people have systems? How many teams have systems? They have systems that they don't even honor. They have systems that they're not even capable of honoring. It's not about systems. If it was about systems, every team that had systems, every person that had systems, every TC that had systems would be freaking knocking it out of the park and have the lowest level of stress that you've ever seen. You might live in a different world, but that's not what I see on a day-to-day basis. That's not reality. It's not the reality I see on a day-to-day basis. So, first statement, it's all about systems. My first point under that, if you took that note, is all capital letters I've got. No, it's not. So here's what the notes are going to show. It's about having systems that you can and will. Those are two different things, by the way. Can and will. They are about having systems that you can and will, all capital letters, honor. And it's about systems that are designed to achieve a specific standard. So it's not all about systems. It's about systems that you can and will honor, and it's about systems that are designed to achieve a specific standard. Now, the amount of times that I've said this and people are going, what do you even mean by standards? Oh, we'll get there. Okay. By the way, next week's webinar is all about nothing but standards, because I think it deserves its own time slot and its own focus. So we are going to talk about standards a lot. So summary, start with grace, lead with compassion. It's all about systems. No, it frickin' is not. You don't have to have frickin' in your notes, but no, it's not. Okay. And then what is it? It's about systems that you will honor, and it's about systems that help achieve a standard. So let's dive into some graphics here. Okay. So I'm going to share a graphic with you, and let's go in here and grab. Okay, let's grab this. Now, I'm telling you right now, Nicole, is this graphic showing up? Okay, cool. This is what systems look like in my head. This is what they look like in my business. This is what they look like in my heart, okay? The fact is I think most of us start and end. That's an important concept. They start and end with systems. That's why it fails. It's one of the reasons why it fails, okay? Because here's the thing is, I want to create a system. Why am I even creating a system? I'm creating a system that helps me achieve a standard that I've set. Now, I have about 30 examples that I want to go through, but I like to try to only stick with one or two examples to stay consistent in each of the videos as people are going through this. So I'm going to go back to communication standards as one of them. Okay, so that's the example I'm going to give you for this particular moment. A communication standard. You want to take communication. So we want, if you have a standard for your communications, we want to build a communication system. What is your system of communication? So here's a problem with that. You need to take something like a system of communication, just like a system of transaction management, and you need to break it into smaller parts. Now, what do I mean by that? When you take a look at a communication system, how can I break that into smaller parts? What's my communication system with a buyer and seller? What's the communication system with my agents? Are those the same system? Should they even have the same system? Should those systems look identical? No. Think about this. So I have a communication system I'm putting together. Break it down into smaller parts. I have a communication system with my buyers and sellers, and it may be separate for each, but let's just say that the buyer seller for right now. I have a communication system with my agents. I have a separate and specific system I am building for communication with vendors. I have a separate and specific communication system with my team. I mean, I can go on and break this down even farther. Okay. System is there to do one thing. It's there to help me achieve a standard that I have set. If you haven't thought about what your standard is, your system, you're not playing this at the highest level that you are capable of playing this at. So here's what my standard is. This is literally how I come up with the rest of the system. My standard is this. Any buyer or seller I work with not only will not answer that the communication was poor. Now, this is a higher standard, what I'm about to say. And I'm not saying it's your standard. I'm saying it's my standard. I'm being honest with that. My standard is this. Not that they won't say that the communication is bad. They will be incapable of honestly saying that there was poor communication. Not that they won't say it, that they will be incapable of saying it. So if that's my standard, doesn't that inform how I'm going to build my system out? Because now I can build a system out and say, does it achieve the standard? Now I'm going to stop right there for a moment. Many of you have systems already. You have some existing systems within your business. Some of them, they're transaction management systems. Some of them, they're systems for how you work with your team. Some of them, I can talk about multiple systems that you have. So look at any system and ask yourself, am I using one bigger system to serve multiple things? Should I be breaking that down into smaller parts? And the system looks a little different for this person than it does for this person. And I don't mean from this agent to this agent. I mean bigger categories, okay? Such as the buyer and seller, agents, teams, vendors, that type of thing, okay? Now, the second thing is, now ask yourself, what I'm having you do in this exercise that I'm talking about right now, if you're not familiar with this with me, I use the word audit on a fairly regular basis. I'm having you audit your system. So go to, and I would suggest to you, by the way, that was squirrel growling. That was not my stomach. That was not me. That's my puppy. I think she heard the mailman, and that's just not going to work for her. So the deal is that what I'm going to ask you to do, baby steps, your homework, first homework, write down 3 of your systems. Actually, do a little bullet list with 3 systems, and then ask yourself on all 3 of those systems, so you have some way of practicing this. I'm looking at that system. What standard is that system designed to help me achieve? What standard is that system designed to help me to achieve? So I've had a number of teams, I would say in the last month, that I've had do this exercise. What they thought their standards were all about was, it's all about, how do I set boundaries? This isn't about freaking boundaries. We're talking about systems right now. Boundaries is a different topic, and anybody who works with me knows I can't stand that word in the first place. I think there's a healthier way to look at boundaries than using the word boundaries, but that's a different topic and a different webinar. But so now let's move on. So let's assume now, and we're going to stick with one example so that we can go through this whole list now, very simply. Number 1, I have communication standards and I want to create a communication standard. So I'm going to break it down into smaller parts. And that communication standard that we're going to use as an example right now is, I want a standard. I want to have a system for communicating with the buyer and seller. What is my standard? My standard is they will be incapable. So what would that standard need to look like to ensure that I meet the standard? Then the next important part, this one, I'm going to apologize to a number of you because some of you will hate this answer. And that is this, if there's anything that you struggle with, you may struggle with number 3 and you suck at it. And what is that? Is you have to learn how to communicate that to people. You don't just do things and implement a system. It is more effective when you can explain to them, this is what you can expect. This is what the system looks like. And I would encourage you to figure out how to explain that in a way that they understand not only what the system is, why we do it. We do that system because we want to make sure you're literally incapable of feeling as though you are not properly communicated with, because that's not something that we will accept. And so communication skills is something that just hasn't been something that they put a lot of attention, time, and focus into it. And I'm just going to tell you right now, from my opinion, this is still, has been, and always will be at some level a relationship-based business. And what relationship, healthy relationship, do you know of that doesn't have good communication? Communication is part of relationships. And if there's any area, a lot of times people say, always, I'm working on my weaknesses. I'm just telling you right now, you can go a lot farther in life by focusing on what your strengths are and putting as much attention on those strengths and pushing those as far as you possibly can. But that doesn't mean that you can't acknowledge that there's a few areas that you probably do need a little bit of work on that are weaknesses. And I would tell you that if you're strong in other areas, keep pushing that. But one area to work on, I would say, focus on what it takes to become unbelievable master of communication. Because even if you grow your business to the point that you can be more in the background, don't you still have to communicate properly with your team members that are now out front? No matter where you are in this game, communication is important. Okay. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about communication, because I know that the audience is a little heavier on TCs in here than it is other roles. Some TCs get annoyed that they feel like I do communicate it. And actually, I communicate it frickin' well, Breckheimer. But I swear every 30 days to 60 days, they lose their ever-living mind as if we never even had the conversation. So learn how to communicate it in a way that you don't mind repeating it. Because know this, in this business, there's a lot of things that you're going to say that you'll have to say over and over and over and over again. So what's your system, not only of communicating, what's your system of recommunicating the same message multiple times? Because sometimes we're going to have to do that. Okay. The last one is this. So you've got a standard. You've built a system that helps you achieve the standard. You've learned how to communicate that with them. Then you just need to honor it. Having a system that we don't honor doesn't mean a hill of beans. Kind of what you did is you wasted everybody's time. You wasted your time sitting down, figuring out even what my systems are. Then I went back and I worked backwards and I did what Breckheimer told me to do. And I did all this work to figure out what all my standards are for everything in my business. And then I learned how to communicate it. And then I still do it however I darn well feel like it. I still am reactive and responsive to whatever is happening in the moment. And my systems don't mean a hill of beans. Grant yourself some grace. Lead with compassion. But part of that compassion is you. If you do all of this work to start updating your systems and put them at the highest level they've ever been, and then you don't honor it, I feel bad for you that you actually took the time, energy, and in my opinion, probably your heart and soul into doing all of this work and then pretended like it didn't exist. I feel bad that you even spent the time doing it. So honoring the systems is a level of compassion for both yourself and those that they were built and meant to serve. Okay. So I hope that helps. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to share with you the next graphic that is, when you go to that YouTube video, or I'll have Chrissy, when she sends the replay of this out, I'll make sure that the link to both these graphics are there. Literally open them up in your Canva, get rid of this weird Cultivate Wins logo here, put your own on it, change the colors. I don't give a hoot. Okay. Now, okay. So this is kind of what we just talked about. So 5 steps for finding and or setting standards that we can build systems to achieve. Remember, we're not just building systems because it's all about systems. No, it's not. It never has been. Now, that is such a common statement in our industry in particular that people, I think, have just accepted it as truth. It's all about your systems. I think we accept that as a reasonable statement. I just don't. I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't agree with it. Okay. It's about systems you will honor and systems that are designed to achieve a specific standard. So I would say the missing ingredient for a lot of people, I think enough people have heard, whether it's me or something else that has talked about, you got to have systems, but systems that you'll honor. I think that's becoming a more familiar concept, because I know I've been talking about it for years. The one that I think seems to be new to people is the standards conversation. I'm going to just take a moment on that, but that's what next week's, or no, I'm sorry, Chrissy's probably yelling at me in the background. It's not next week. It's 2 weeks, I think, from now is a webinar. All I'm going to do is talk about standards, and I'm going to list out standard after standard after standard in areas. That's all we're talking about is standards, okay? So to hit it on it briefly here is to find your standards if that's a new concept to you. What is the system that we are going to audit? And what I'm suggesting to you, first for homework, write down 3 of those systems and assume that what you're about to do is audit them. Okay? You're going to audit them. Then next one, can this system be broken down into smaller parts? Because I've had multiple people, at least I think 3 of them this week on calls, that have mentioned that we have a communication system. But they think that that system serves everybody that they talk to. I'm like, don't you talk to a couple different distinctive groups? Let's break those down into smaller. And they were kind of overwhelmed by this communication system. I'm like, give yourself a little freaking grace. Let's talk about one little part right now. So ask yourself, if I'm going to audit my systems, the first thing to do is, can it be broken down in smaller parts? What is the standard that we're trying to achieve for that smaller part? Now, I'm going to go off script here a little bit, because I think what you're seeing right here, I think when I say this, you guys are going to know it already and believe it, but I want you to see it's happening in real time right now on this call, okay? Which is this. Some of you, this is a new concept. Come on, you are part of an amazing and beautiful community. Crazy, amazing, and beautiful community. If you are struggling with this little homework, call 1 or 2 or 3 people that you truly trust, and you trust to be honest with you, and you trust to call you out. And what I would do, you guys should be having a weekly accountability call with each other. And if you haven't heard this phrase from me, I'm going to say it again, which is this: restrictions are power. Restrictions are power. Put a restriction on your call together. Restrictions are power. What do I mean by that? Say, we're going to do an accountability call. There's 3 of us. Nobody gets more than 5 minutes. Put the restriction on yourself. I am going to share with them, what did I audit? And I'm going to go through this with them and say, I looked to see if I could break it down in smaller parts. So I broke it down in these smaller parts. Now, this is where I'm struggling, is with the standard. So I came up with this, and I'm looking for feedback on that. Or last week we talked, and you guys helped me come up with the standard for that. So I kind of built out this system. I want to show it to you in 5 minutes or less. And I want you to tear me to shreds or tell me that, oh my gosh, that's awesome. I would tweak this little thing. I think it's amazing. Okay. Put restrictions on your group. Nobody gets to talk for more than 5 minutes. So you better be prepared when you get on the call. What am I going to share? What am I going to ask for help with? And whatever I would do is, however many people are on the call, I'd keep it at 3 or less. Multiply that times 5, and that's how long your call is. Maybe add 5 more minutes max for a little fluff. Hi, how you doing? How's squirrel? Because that's an important question. How is squirrel? So the deal is I would say, if you've got 3 people, it's a 15 to 20 minute call. You guys honor and respect each other's time. Have compassion for the other people. They are doing this because they want to provide support to you, but they're also looking for support. Have compassion both ways. Get on the call and frickin' get off the call. Be prepared to present whatever you're going to present in those 5 minutes. Ask for feedback, any input. Keep the input specific and short, then go away and do your homework. This community is unbelievable. And when I say this community, I'm talking about the real estate community. I know you're all part of different Facebook groups. I know a bunch of you are part of our group, you know. I don't care where you find your people. Find people. Support each other. None of us are that great that we don't need support. None of us are that great that we don't need support. We need support, but let's give support. It goes both ways, okay? So that's what I would recommend that you do. And then what is the standard that we're trying to achieve? And the more you guys talk about standards and give each other examples, your idea of standards might get more refined by how you hear someone else talks about their standards. And you may actually help someone understand standards better because you gave an example that just, boom, the light bulb went on for them. Build or design the system. If a system does not already exist, that will achieve the standard. Last part. How do I know? Okay, great. Figured out what the system is. I've broken into smaller parts. I know what my standard is now for that specific part. I built the system. Now what I'm going to suggest that you do, take that system and as your little group, say, I love everything that you're doing. The only thing that I'm questioning is, how is that scalable? Whatever you're doing then, audit it against a standard. So for us, we use the 5x5. If you have another standard for your system, forget Cultivate Wins. I don't care. Whatever your standard is, know when you audit a system that you're auditing it against something. I think people talk about audit and it's just an open canvas. I don't even understand how people work that way. If you're going to audit something, I ask you, what are you auditing it against? Well, kind of my spirit, my soul, how I feel. Oh, geez, come on. Doesn't that change moment by moment? For some of us. Okay. What is your standard you're going to hold something up against? So when you're looking at that system that you've built, how is that effective? How is that efficient? I know that there was a time in my business where I had someone that was really questioning. They thought a lot of things that I was doing were actually inefficient because we were doing a lot more on the transaction up front, and they felt that was inefficient. The amount of time that it saved us later in the transaction after they got to know everything, they're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy town. And then they realize that it's actually the inefficient up front doing a few extra things that actually saved us 3 times what it cost us up front. Okay. So having someone go ahead and actually question you on that and ask you, how is that efficient? I mean, maybe you've already thought about that, but that looks like a lot of extra work. It's challenging you to think about, is it efficient? Is it effective? Is it freakishly predictable? Is it duplicatable? Is it scalable? How does it take into consideration that I want it to create for everybody I interact with and myself, self-compassion, peace, contentment, joy, and fully informed by gratitude and compassion. And the last thing I'll say about that is the number one that's misunderstood on this 5x5 is joy. I am never responsible to bring joy to anybody. Not my clients, not my agents, anybody. It's not about bringing them joy. It's about being self-aware as to what has the capability of stealing their joy. I am self-aware as to what steals my agent's joy. I am self-aware of what's stealing my joy. I'm self-aware of what's stealing my buyer and seller's joy. I am self-aware of what's annoying the frick out of my vendors and stealing their joy. And my job is to put systems together that takes into consideration what has an immediate effect on this used to steal their joy. And I put systems in place that's not even possible anymore. Go back to the buyer and seller example. What steals their joy? The fact that nobody's communicating with them. The fact that they've got to chase the information down. The fact that they don't know what's going on. Put a system in place that you're self-aware of what has a chance of stealing their joy. And if you make sure that what has a chance of stealing their joy is not there, the only thing left is that joy. Okay. So I hope that helps. Now, put my glasses back on, is stop screen sharing. Well, a couple other notes that I had here. One section of the notes will say, when you get a copy of the notes, where to start, baby steps and mini wins. The baby steps and mini wins is that little homework that I gave you. But I would tell you that I think for compassion for yourself and for others, that I would try to do that homework on your own. That's fine, knowing that you are working on making a couple connections and actually setting up a weekly Zoom call. It will be worth 15, 20 minutes of all of your time to do that on a regular basis to help each other improve your systems. Some of you guys are just an island amongst yourself out there. I just want to hug your soul. I mean, unbelievably. Frick, I wish I could be on the call with you every week and keep it at 15 minutes or less. Okay. Grab a community. The last thing that is on the notes is going to be this. So Chrissy has been on the team for this December. It'll be 2 years. So let's just say it's a year and a half. It's a little over a year and a half. But Chrissy knows that I take this stuff pretty seriously. I have some fun with it, but I take it pretty seriously. I do this stuff myself. Okay. So what I do, now this is a whole separate set of notes. If you're thinking about taking your notes, I'm going to give you something that's outside of this talk, but I want to give you what this looks like in real time, because what we're talking about is you starting from ground zero today and working on some homework. So let's say that you've done your homework, and let's say that you, over time, months, quarters, a year, have really done this on a regular basis and really fine-tuned your systems. Let's just say a year from now, you are crazy happy with your systems. That's when, to me, the real work begins. Now, the real work is actually less work, in my opinion, but it's more important. And that is this. Once I get things where they probably should have been, and that's okay, I'm going to grant myself some grace. And it took me a while to get where I should be, but now I'm there, is I think we get lazy. And we get lazy and we're like, whatever, my systems work. We're good to go. And a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, it's kind of all gotten away from us. And now we're in that same overwhelm again and go, oh my gosh, I really got to work on my systems. Okay. I just don't ever want to be in that position. I hate feeling stressed out and overwhelmed. So here's the way that we do it. And Chrissy knows that we have an example in our organization right now for Breckheimer beating himself up last quarter, because this is what I do. Every quarter, I look at what are the systems within my organization that I own. And I put on my calendar once a quarter. And this little homework will be in the notes. I put in my calendar once a quarter a 60-minute to 90-minute. I'm going to beg you not to put a longer appointment than that in there. But once a quarter, 60 minutes to 90 minutes, you're going to put something on your calendar, and it happens once a quarter. Now, what is going to be in that calendar reminder? The title of it is Systems Audit. And what's going to be in the description is, what are the systems within your organization that you own? Now, what do I do during that 60 minutes and 90 minutes? Now, some of you, after you hear all this, you're like, Breckheimer, you are so unrealistic. There's no way you can do that in 60 to 90 minutes. Bite me. No, I can. Here's why I can do it, is because this is about maintenance, ongoing maintenance. This is assuming that I've gotten things pretty close to the generally where they need to be. So what I'm doing is in 60 to 90 minutes, I already don't even have to worry about what are the systems that I own, what should I be looking at? Right in the actual description, it should say, what are the systems that I own? Now, Chrissy knows one of her goals for next quarter is we're going to add, because now she's starting to own systems within our organization. She's going to have a calendar reminder of what systems she owns. And what I will do is I will go through that list of systems, and I will audit it, each one of those systems, in just a couple minutes. This literally doesn't take more than about 3 to 5 minutes per system. I'm going to look at the system and ask myself 2 questions. This is it. This is the only 2 questions I ask. how does it stand up against the 5x5? Because what are you auditing it against? I'm auditing against the 5x5. And once you really understand the standards part, this next question will mean a lot to you, is the system actually achieving the standard that I've set? This is a two-part question. Is the system actually achieving the standard that I've set? Or is that standard still relevant? Sometimes you learn different things and your standards can change. Here's another reason why your standards might change. Your services might look different today than they do 2 years from now. You might provide different services. You might serve different customers. Sometimes those standards are just going to change. Okay. And what I do is, if you think about that, if I'm doing that once a quarter, every 90 days, every 33 months, however people want to talk about it, every 12-week year, whatever it is. Okay. A lot of different ways to talk about a quarter these days. But the fact is, if you do that, the audit is actually pretty quick. Now, when I said Chrissy has a real life example of me this last quarter I did this audit and I noticed 2 of my systems were out of date. They were out of date for what I currently do. They are out of date for the human that I want to become. One of them was my database. My database had gotten so out of hand, I had to go back in and rebuild my CRM and rebuild my database. And now, hope this phrase doesn't bother anyone. I'm just telling you right now, my database is sexy looking right now. I love that thing, man. That thing is so cute. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I say that a lot of times too, is I think spreadsheets are just sexy. I don't know what it is with me, but I love that geeky stuff. The CRM right now looks freaking beautiful. I love it. I'm in there every day now because it's an enjoyable place to be, and it helps me to bring more value to more people. And it makes sure that the human that is me, that makes mistakes and lets people slip through the cracks and I forget stuff, doesn't happen. It's a tool that helps me to become closer to the human that I want to be. The second one was, I am all about time management, time blocking, calendar, and everything else like that. And my calendar still reflected more of what I was doing and trying to achieve. It was probably about 6 to 8 months out of date. Because what I'm working on right now is not the same stuff I was working on 6 to 8 months ago, but I never slowed down and actually correctly updated all of my time blocks and my calendars and everything. And my calendar right now just excites me. Every week when I look at my week calendar, I'm so excited. I feel blessed. I feel honored. I just feel fired up like nobody's business. Okay. Now, I own a lot of systems. I did a quick audit last quarter, and those were the 2 systems that came up that needed my attention. Once you get things to where you want them to be, the ongoing audit is kind of a fun activity, and it's a lot lighter than what you'd give it credit for. So I'm going to stop there because you guys who know me well enough know I could probably go on another hour, and nobody wants that. So I will stop. Are there any questions? Is there anybody, it might not even be a question, it might just be a comment. You might want to open up and say where you're struggling, or a comment where you've come a long ways, or a question, anything. Does anybody have anything? And I'm okay if nobody does. Okay, go for it. Tashina. Oh.
Well, I have had an assistant now for almost a year, and struggling between efficiency between both of us because we're managing one inbox. So there's times that we're kind of stepping over each other. We definitely got a lot better, but it's that struggle between who does what, and if this person's out, then who's picking up where is my current struggle.
Yeah, I think where I would have fun, and yes, I do say fun, this would be fun for me, as I love digging into that stuff and auditing that. And so when I audit something like that, I'll give you just kind of my criteria. We're obviously not going to be able to solve the whole problem in 2 minutes here, but the way I look at it is this. Nobody on my team or any team I work with, as far as I'm concerned, does anything. Nobody does anything. We didn't hire task doers. We own things. So who owns that? And when I say own that, let's say you're both working in something, okay? I want to know that there is a system that we agree upon. Who owns that system? So one of the first things I'm going to look at is, okay, so based on what you just talked about, do we have a system in place for that? Okay. Now you're talking about working in the same email. So it's a little hard to do this on this call because we'd really be diving in. What's the purpose of you guys both working in the same email? How is that working? I do that with a lot of people I've worked with. Crazy number of people have had access to my email. It's just crazy. Chrissy likes to joke that she could destroy me like that. Yeah, she could. She pretty much has access to everything I've got. Okay. But then from there, I'm going to ask, what is the standard that we're trying to achieve? Why are we both in that email? What is the standard that we're trying to achieve? Now, what is the system that we're going to build out that helps us achieve that? And that system has to take into consideration who owns it. How often is everybody in there? How do I know what you own on that when I'm gone? But I mean, I'm really going to dive into some specifics there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grant us some grace that as we refine those systems, it's going to take a little trial and error to make sure. You both might think you're working the same system, but you don't have clarity. So one, it's like, why are we still having this problem? Well, I thought you meant this. No, I meant this. So there's going to be a little bit of trial and error there because you guys are both in the same system. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit, but everything that we just talked about, hardcore, I wouldn't be changing anything I just talked about. But again, I'm going to grant grace and I'm going to lead with compassion. Okay, and from there, I will tell you, and I'm only going to give you, I'm not saying this is your problem, but I've got to go with the law of averages here. Okay, law of averages are this. Now, granted, maybe I have a little more experience with people working in my email. So I've personally experienced this, but I hear this with a lot of people. So this is definitely my take on it. My take on it is this. I am very adamant when I'm just going to use an example of a transaction coordinator. If a transaction coordinator says that they have another transaction coordinator, an assistant, whatever they want to label them, is there to do their email management, the problem is 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with the person that you asked to manage your email. It's with you, the leader. You can't keep your freaking hands out of the inbox. That's usually where the problem is. So when I'm working with one of my TCs, and we were working with, say, email management, the deal is that we have, and you can go through the email management course and see how I do that. We have certain folders. Only one person. I don't care if it's 2 of us. I don't care if it's 5 of us that are in the same email. Only one person owns the actual inbox. One person owns the inbox. What is their number one job? As things come in, filter. Put them in the appropriate folders. Then each folder is owned by someone specifically as well. Okay. So when it was, a lot of people know that I worked with Rain, who's with Open to Close now, and works with Andrew Altman and stuff like that. So she worked with me as one of my TCs for 2.5 years. So when she first started, she owned my inbox. The only one who could get in trouble was me, and that's me if I touch the inbox. We just agreed she owns it. Breckheimer, get your frickin' mitts off of the area that I own. Okay, messes us both up when I'm like, there's a couple new ones in there. I'm going to quick take care of those. What she would do, she would own it. She would put it in a folder. Now, each of those folders, we determine who owned those. How do I know who owns those? If the name of the folder was just the name of the folder, that means I own it. It's my email. Okay. Anything that we got to the point that she was trained that she could take that folder, such as a compliance folder, such as I could name a bunch of different folders. Then we change the name of the folder, R, because that's the first initial of her name, dash, whatever the name of the folder is. When she owns it and I'm no longer allowed to touch it, we just put her initial in it. Now, let's say she owns 3 folders. Why else do I use the letter R? Because I'm using Gmail. What does Gmail do? It automatically alphabetizes all of my folders. So all the folders that she owns are all right next to each other. It makes her life easier too. And I know what I'm not supposed to touch. Okay. I'm using examples here, but I would say 9 times out of 10, there's something wrong with the system there, and the system isn't well thought out enough. Or if the system is well thought out of, where does the problem come in? Someone doesn't honor the system. Now, granted, I'm not in your email and I don't know all the situations. Those would be some of the most common that I see in that situation where everyone's working on the same email. I hope that helps a little. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Questions? No? Okay. That was good. That was good. Nicole, any words on the way out? Where do you want to tear me apart? Where was it helpful? What did I miss? What do you want to add on there? I mean, Nicole, come on, guys. Nicole's closing like 2,200 transactions per year. You don't do that without having suite systems, communication, and everything else like that. Nicole, what do you got?
I don't think of anything that you missed, but I think, I always come back to kind of communicating the standard, because that's where I myself have fallen short with communicating with my team and communicating the standard.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm thinking about that, that communication is your relationship with your team. So I'm always thinking about how do we reinforce that communication and also make sure that it's a safe place for them to ask any questions, because if they don't understand what's happening, if there's something that's wrong, that they're doing wrong, it's usually because of my failure as a leader to communicate what actually needed to happen. And so anytime there is a problem and it's like one of our standards are not being met, the first place that I try to train myself to do is to go to, well, did the TC even know that this is what the standard is? How did we communicate what that standard was? Like, where did I fall short? And I guarantee you 99% of the time it's me. I'm the one that did not explain or did not provide the right tools or did not provide the right documentation or a place where they can reference all of that, because they want to do a good job and they want to meet the standards, but they can't if they don't know what they are or how to do it.
Yeah. Oh, perfectly said. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Anybody else? Otherwise, I only have one last thing to close out with. Anybody? Okay. So I'm going to close out with this I waited to the very end to do this because some people don't like this next statement. Okay. So that's fine. You can turn off the video and still get value from the previous. This overwhelms some people. Every system is 2 systems. And some people don't like that. It's like, oh, frick, Breckheimer. So I've got to build all these systems. I got to correct all these systems. And now you're telling me every system has to have a backup system? 100% of the time, yes. Okay. Now, we got to take baby steps. Let's just assume that you have a system. So here's what I'm going to share with you as an example. If I am communicating with an agent and we have a communication standard. Now, I'm not saying you're going to communicate exactly the way that I'm about to tell you that I communicate, because I use a lot of humor with my agents and I tear them apart quite a bit in a funny way. And it works for me. Okay. So you might have a totally different delivery. Okay. But it's this. And this will be in the notes, this actual sentence and phrase. Okay. Because it's the phrase I've been using for so many years. It's stupid. Okay. And the word grace will be used twice. The word grace matters to me. Okay, the actual grace actually matters to me. And that is this. So I am going to tell the agent what our standard of communication is. So one example that you guys have heard from me is that we are not allowed, this goes both ways, not just them to me, it goes both ways. We are not allowed to either call, text, or email anything that even resembles the phrase, call me. It's not allowed. Okay. You hired me because you're busy. Why under God's green earth, if you call me or leave me a message that says call me, why do I think you're just sitting there waiting for me to call you and you're just going to pick up my call? Didn't you hire me because you're busy? It doesn't even make sense. We're just playing phone tag here, and we're not in 3rd grade anymore, nor are we in 7th grade. We're going to play this at a higher level. We play this game at the highest level. And I'll tell you right now, if you as an agent accept from me that I'm willing to play this at that low of a level, you should just fire me now. You need to go hire someone that actually will play this game at a higher level. And I believe that you should have high standards of me. And if I don't meet those standards, you should talk to me or fire me. But I'll tell you this right now, I have high standards of my agents as well. So here's how this works. Communication is going to go both ways. We will not leave each other any messages that even closely resemble call me. There are only two. We always assume when we call the other person that the other person is busy. So we always are prepared to leave a voicemail because we're assuming the other person is not going to answer. So the assumption is that we call. If someone answers, that's just a gift. But if they don't, we're already prepared to leave a message. And there's only two messages that are allowed. First one, leave enough actionable information so the other person receiving the message can do something. Leave enough actionable information so the other person can do something. Number two, leave enough information to frickin' end the conversation. Period. Those are the only two voicemails that are acceptable. Now that, because what's the standard? The standard is you hired me because what is the standard? The standard is you hired me fully expecting, and you're going to hold me up to a standard that everything that I do is going to be efficient and effective. The standard is efficiency and effectiveness. The system is we will not leave anything that closely resembles call me. So I will communicate that to them. So here's the sentence that I was trying to get to the whole time is this. Now, this is where I have a lot of fun with my agents and whatever. I throw them under the table and I have fun with it. It's all good. And they laugh too. As I'll say, but here's one thing I want to share with you. You are so going to screw this up. You're going to fail at this at the highest level. You're going to screw this up, but that's okay. Because we have grace built into the system. It's the first time grace is used. The fact is you are going to screw this up, and that's okay because we have grace built into the system. And here's what grace looks like. It's okay because you're used to doing one thing. From time to time, you're going to slip back to your old ways. You're going to screw this up so many times, it's going to be ridiculous. You're probably going to leave me a voicemail and say, Breckheimer, I don't know why you just don't fire me. Okay. And I've heard that statement so many times. Okay. Breckheimer, I don't even know why you still keep me. You know, that kind of stuff. Okay. But here's the thing is, it's okay. We have grace built into the system, and here's what grace looks like. Now, when I say, here's what grace looks like, what am I talking about? What's my system that backs up my system? When it doesn't go right, what is your system for when things don't go right? We all build systems to make sure things go right. But if you don't have a system for how you will react when it doesn't go right, you're not playing this at the highest level. You're just not. Now you're being reactive and responsive because why? Because things didn't go as you planned. I plan that it's not going to go as I planned from time to time. So what does that system look like? So what I tell them is, so here's the deal. You're going to leave me a message that says, Breckheimer, call me. David, can you call me when you get a chance? Sometimes it's just call me. Okay. Don't take the next thing personally because it's a template, which means by definition, it's not personal. It wasn't written for you. It's a template. You're going to immediately get a text that says, loved hearing from you. Feel free to reach back to me when you have a second to share any actionable information so I can make sure that you're getting taken care of. Have an awesome day. You're the best in the frickin' business. And then what I usually tell them, remember, I said, don't take this personally. So I say that to everybody. So don't even worry about it. You're really not the best in the business. Everybody's the best in the business. Okay. So I have fun with them and we play with it and everything else like that. But here's the thing is I'm not just going to be someone that is reactive and responsive and calling them back every time they say, call me. But here's the thing is, this is not just a standard for you to me. This is also for me. I don't have the right. I'm assuming you're busy. I have no right to call, text, or email you because I'm stressed. Call me. I have to leave you enough actionable information or enough information to just end the conversation. So that's what I mean by every system has a backup system. So when you develop that system, that's great. But then think about when someone doesn't honor that system or it falls apart, what is your system for handling when it falls apart? That's what I mean by when I say every system is actually two systems. Okay, so I hope that helps someone. I think we're just going to end it from there. Wait, someone just sent me a direct message. Looks like I sent myself a direct message, so it's probably from Chrissy, and for some reason I can't read it. So anyways, I'm going to go with the fact that everything is fine. And Chrissy, you're the best in the business. I know you're in the background, and you're going to be putting these notes together and editing this all up and emailing everybody who registered the copy of the notes and the replay. But if you are looking for a more immediate thing, you can go to YouTube or go into our group where I posted it. There's a 7-minute video that does this in short. And I use those graphics, and in the actual description of the YouTube video is the free link to the free graphics. If you don't want to wait, because it'll probably take Chrissy about a week to get this out, it probably won't be till next Friday. If you want it sooner than that, you gotta go over there and steal whatever you want. But tons of love, everybody. Have an awesome day. Take care.